welcome to the Sam Roberts Show. I'm your host, Sam Roberts, and today I'm joined by the lovely author from Huntsville, Alabama, of the newly released book, The White Dove, Miss Catherine Knowles. And Catherine, it's an honor to have you on the show today.
Good morning, Sam, and thank you for having me today.
Could you tell us a little bit about your book?
Well, I have two books. One is The Donut Tree, which is my first book, and I get asked quite often why I wrote the book. And the story goes like this. My husband and I live on the Tennessee River in Huntsville, and we just have a lot of rural farmland. And I knew that there was once a town there called Taylorsville. But what led me on my book writing journey is I discovered a man was lynched on my property.
Wow.
I could not let it go. I wanted to know what happened, who did it, why they did it, did they get in trouble? You know, did the man that was lynched, what did he do so bad to someone to take his life? You know, did he have a mom? All these things rattled around in my question.
How did you find out about this?
I was looking up Taylorsville, and I came across a book that was called 100 Years of Lynching. And I thought, why is Taylorsville in this book? And I read this man's name, Herman Dealey. And so my journey began. I went to the Huntsville Public Library, which has an extensive records department. And I spent 6 months in there. I went in the library investigating a murder on my property, and I walked out writing a book. And that's kind of amazing, though, that I'm, in my 50s, and I decided to have a new career writing a book. But
so you didn't start in writing books until your 50s?
That's correct.
Wow.
And so it's kind of amazing. And so all the things that I've read researching for this man's life were things in Huntsville. And so I incorporated in the book all the actual, these were, things, murders and bootleggings that happened. And one of them was a judge that was murdered. And it brought national attention to Huntsville, the small little town of about 8,000 people. Newspaper reporters from Miami to New York, Los Angeles, all camped out in Huntsville for this trial because it was political, it was, alcohol was involved.
Yeah, I really love how you included real events in your book.
Right. Throughout the book, it's fiction, ties it all together, but I incorporate the story through, with the real life happenings. And when the judge was murdered, it was like I said, it was a national sensation. And they eventually caught the man who murdered him. And by the way, this wasn't very far from my house either, at Ditto Landing at a marina. This was in 1916.
Wow. That's not even that long ago.
Yeah, well, it was 100 years ago. And so as I read all these things in the library, I thought, I wonder if everyone else knows these crazy things went on in Huntsville. And maybe I could, use it in a book. And I did eventually find out what happened to the man who was lynched. His name was Herman Dealey. He was lynched by 3 white guys.
Wow.
But there was a silver lining to this story, if I always try to find one anyways, even in a gruesome story, and that is the prosecutor. This was 100 years ago. Black people's lives did not matter, unfortunately, in Alabama.
That's crazy.
But this prosecutor challenged society. Think how brave this guy must have been to take on the normal society rules of things, and he prosecuted these 3 men. There was a trial. They got off the hook because there were 3 white guys. But as I was saying, the silver lining was because he prosecuted them, there was never another lynching in Madison County.
Wow.
So he probably saved thousands of lives, hundreds of lives. Who knows? But people were intimidated by that, the trial, and so in a way he's a little bit of a hero. And I just wanted to write the book and give dedication to Herman Dealey and all the people that were like him.
So this is kind of how you got started, and what sparked your interest in writing.
Right.
So what career were you in before?
Oh, I've had a list of careers. I've worked in the airlines. I was a caretaker for my mother when she was very ill. I was a corporate wife to my husband, who's an architect in Huntsville. So there was a lot went along with that. And my husband's also a developer, so we were did a lot in the real estate world. And so it was kind of a surprise and a mystery to so many people I know. You wrote a book, and so many people like it. I love it. That the feedback has been so positive.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so, what's your favorite thing about being a writer now?
My favorite thing about being a writer, now that I've finished my second book, The White Dove, The research. I find it fascinating to read things, to gather all the different aspects of, like when the White Dove, not only did I do research in and around Huntsville, it was the Civil War, so I researched all over the country.
That's amazing. Did you go to these places?
Actually, I did. A part of the
awesome.
book is in Georgia.
Wow.
And there's well, let me just start at the beginning about the White Dove. It is about the adventures of Madame Molly Teal.
Okay.
She died in Huntsville in 1899, and she bequeathed her large Victorian mansion to the city of Huntsville to be the infirmary,
Wow.
which is now known as Huntsville Hospital.
That's
So
great.
we have a madam to thank for our healthcare system in Huntsville. So when I was given the information on Molly, you know, it had everything about her probate case, you know, tax records, the houses that she owned, you know, different things about her when she was in the newspaper, census reports and stuff.
So Molly was a real person.
She was a real person.
Wow.
And I consider Molly a hero. And that's why I wrote the book. I want to pay homage to her because without her, I don't, you know, her benevolence was the foundation of Huntsville Hospital, which is the third largest trauma center in the country.
I didn't know that.
Yes,
Wow.
and so we have a madam to thank for that, and I think in a way she's a hero, and I say that because I had to investigate what her life was like. And so one of the things that happened is when she died, of course, the family came out of the woodwork. They did not want the city to have the house. They wanted
Wow.
Molly's money, even though they had nothing to do with her while she was alive. And so there was a trial in Huntsville, and it went all the way to the Alabama Supreme Court.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Wow.
And so when I read that case, I read it twice, looking for nuggets of what was in her life. And one of the witnesses testified, this just broke my heart, that he saw Molly's mother take her at 10 years old into the Union soldiers' tents in Nashville.
Wow.
That is so sad.
Yes.
I mean, I can relate, 10 years old, a little girl. And did you know that during the Civil War, the age of consent in the state of Tennessee was 10?
That's insane.
I just can't believe this. And so it touched me so much, I wanted to know more. And so I began reading about the Civil War and how, you know, the things that happened to the civilians. I didn't want the book to be war book.
Yeah.
You know, we've read enough about that horrible time in our country's history. But I wanted to know what it was like for the civilians. And it was horrible. Both sides, the Confederacy and the Union, treated the civilians like they were just throwaway people. And the women were, you know, their husbands were either dead or all fighting in a war, and they had no food. They had no way to take care of their children,
Yeah.
and they were forced into prostitution. And so, sadly, Molly's life began at 10. The records indicate that by the time she was 15 and a half, she moved to Huntsville and had enough money, because she was successful at what
Wow.
she did, that she bought a house. Women weren't allowed to own property.
Yes.
How did she do it? And so that's where I came in with the fiction of how things happened in her life. But I did use some of the Civil War, I mean, I had to, as to why she got there. And one of her adventures, and she's in the state of Georgia, and she runs into the man, this is fiction, but she runs into the man that killed her father in Athens, Alabama. And this part's true too. There was a Union officer that went in to take over Athens, Alabama, and the citizens resisted. They fought back.
Really?
And so this Union officer named Turchton, and this is real, brought another pack of soldiers in the next day, and he told all of them, I'm going to look the other way for 5 hours. And it's known as the Rape of Athens. They burnt, pillaged, and literally raped women during the siege.
In Athens?
In Athens, Alabama. And so I used that character, I incorporated that in the story as the person who killed Molly's father. And so she is, at a later time, she is in Georgia,
Okay.
and she runs into him again.
Wow.
And this part of the story, again, is true. He was court-martialed in Huntsville. And right as they were about to convict him, President Lincoln gave him a better job and moved him up to brigadier general, which can't be court-martialed.
Yeah.
And the reason is because Sherman wanted to use Turchton's methods in Georgia, and that was the same methods they used in Russia, which is where he's from. And so they did what he did in Athens. They put the fear of God into people and literally scorched the earth campaign to the sea. And that eventually is what ended the Civil War. But I used him.
And he came from Russia.
He came from Russia,
Wow.
became a U.S. citizen,
Okay.
changed his name to John Basil Turchton. It was a big, long Russian name, but he was the mastermind in Sherman's,
Yeah.
ending the war in Georgia. And so Molly encounters him again, and thus the story of the White Dove begins in Georgia.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with Catherine Knowles.
My name's
right
Wes
after this.
Free, and I'm the owner of Knight Free Insurance. I'm the third generation. It was started by my grandfather, Paul R. Knight, and then my dad, Elliot Free, came in the 70s, and I came in 93. And we've been here at the Ice House since 83, I think, and we've got several ladies that have worked with us and been part of our team for many years. Independent agency. We represent several different companies, so when we say we can shop your insurance, we're not only shopping the coverages, we're also shopping the companies to get the best price for the coverages. And we pretty much stay in Cullman. We do house, car, life insurance, no health insurance. We'll leave that to those guys. And then on the commercial side, we can do property, general liability, contractors, manufacturers, and all that kind of stuff. We can handle the bonds and everything you need, auto insurance. All right, well, that's a little bit about Knight Free. Please give us a call sometime. Our number is 256-734-4060, and we're here at the Old Ice House. We also have a website and Facebook page, so you can get us on social media and give us a call.
Welcome back in, folks. We're here with Catherine Knowles. And Catherine, you've told us about your book, but now where do we get it?
Well, the book is available on Amazon. Both books are available on Amazon. The Donut Tree is available in Huntsville at great places like the Space and Rocket Center, the Botanical Gardens, Huntsville Museum of Art, Harrison Brothers, and a couple of fun places that I have the book available is at Star Market. And the place I love the most is Lee's Magic Tunnel Car Wash. Sells more books than anywhere in town. It's crazy. I think people get trapped, waiting, and they pick up the book and get interested in it. But the White Dove is my newest release, and it is available on Amazon in print or Kindle. And I want to tell you a little bit about the cover because it really means a lot to me. Designing it myself,
So you designed the cover?
I did.
yourself.
I
That's
did.
awesome.
And what I'm most proud about is it's all local.
Wow.
It's written about a local woman by a local author. I used a local model for the cover.
And a local person made the art.
Yes, and a local celebrity horse, Divine Intervention. I was very pleased to be able to work with this horse, and
That's awesome.
and I
You're
used a local
incorporating.
media guy to do the photography and do all the images on the book. So when people say push local, that's what we did
Exactly.
here.
All in Huntsville, Alabama.
All in Huntsville,
awesome.
yes, sir. And it's available on Amazon. Another thing I'd like to share with the readers, there's if you want to get one here locally in Cullman, Deb's bookstore down the street can have one for you in 2 days.
I might head up there today.
Yeah, and also I'd like to invite your viewers to Huntsville on the 16th of February. I'll be doing my
16th.
first book launch and book signing at the Huntsville Botanical Gardens between 11 and 2. And I'd like to meet all your Cullman viewers.
That's awesome.
So I'd like to thank you for having me today. It's
Well,
been a
thank you for
pleasure.
being on the show, Catherine. And thank you, folks, for tuning in. This is Sam Roberts.